He came back with a smell of blood. Although the smell was faint, I could still smell it. Mr. Assassin took off his dirty clothes and walked towards the bathroom, saying, "I'll cook after I finish showering." I hesitated and shyly spoke up. "Do you want to shower together?" His body suddenly froze, and he turned to look at me. I tried to make amends. "Anyway, I can't see." "I can see." He threw down these words and went into the bathroom. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. My name is Janelle Dietz, and I am an orphan. 15 years ago, I was adopted by a wealthy family, but their children didn't like me, especially the youngest son. He pushed me down the stairs when I wasn't paying attention, and my head hit the steps, causing me to lose my sight. Actually, I'm not completely blind, just extremely blurry. In order to survive, I insisted that I couldn't see anything. After being discharged from the hospital, my family arranged for me to live in a villa in the suburbs and gave me a large sum of money to fend for myself. I was too lazy to seek revenge. I spent my days ordering takeout and opening packages, living a comfortable life. Unexpectedly, 2 weeks ago, an assassin suddenly broke in one night. He held a dagger to my neck, ready to strike, but when he realized I was blind, he didn't make a move. He only threatened me not to say anything. So the two of us started this bizarre cohabitation. He had unpredictable whereabouts and occasionally helped with cooking. But a few meals couldn't satisfy me. As the landlord, I needed to show him some color. That night, I waited outside the bathroom, imagining his tempting body. The sound of water stopped, and Mr. Assassin came out wrapped in a towel. Steam filled the air. In my blurred vision, I could still make out his broad shoulders and narrow waist. Wow, he looks even more enticing up close. Mr. Assassin saw me and asked, "Why are you standing here?" I turned my face towards his chest and cleared my throat. "Let me touch your abs." Mr. Assassin paused in drying his hair before speaking after a while. "Do you want to die? Let me touch them, and then I can go die." He ignored me and walked away. I hurriedly followed, forgetting to take my blind cane nearby. Accidentally, my leg bumped into the corner of the table. With a thud, I fell to the ground. Ah, it hurt so much. I propped myself up, tears streaming down from the pain. Mr. Assassin sighed, walked over, crouched down in front of me, and the water droplets from his hair fell on my thigh. His face was very close to mine, but I still couldn't see clearly. Judging by his general outline, he should be a handsome guy. "Come a little closer. Just a little closer, and I'll be able to see your face clearly." I didn't dare to look too hard, afraid of being discovered by him. Mr. Assassin lowered his head and looked at my knee. His warm fingers gently touched the wound. "Your leg is bleeding. Do we have any iodine at home?" I answered irrelevantly, "I want to touch your abs." Once again, he was speechless. "Just kidding, what's this small wound? I used to get hurt like this often." While he wasn't fully dressed yet, I had to act quickly. The assassin reluctantly asked, "Are you just going to touch? I actually want to kiss too." "Don't push your luck." Just when I thought he would get angry and leave, he grabbed my wrist and placed it on his waist. I looked at him in surprise. Mr. Assassin turned his face away and spoke with difficulty. "Go ahead, touch it." I touched it randomly, afraid that he would change his mind. The touch on my hand was smooth and tender, with distinct muscles. When I touched his waist, Mr. Assassin's body trembled slightly. His voice sounded hoarse. "Go slower, it tickles a bit." I almost had a nosebleed. I was just innocently touching his abs, absolutely no other lewd thoughts. I slowed down my hand's movements. He stopped trembling as well. I don't know if it was because of my excessive movements or if the towel had a mind of its own. It fell from Mr. Assassin's waist to the ground. Mr. Assassin quickly flicked the towel on his shoulder onto my face, then hurriedly picked up the towel. I asked knowingly, "What happened?" He answered somewhat embarrassed, "Nothing." I suppressed my laughter and looked at his flustered expression. I didn't expect to have an unexpected gain. When I woke up in the morning, Mr. Assassin had already left. I took out my hidden phone and held it in front of my face, ready to order some takeout. Suddenly, the door of the villa's hall was violently kicked open. Immediately after, someone shouted, "Janelle Dietz, come out." Even if this broken voice turned into electronic music, I could still recognize it. Black-green. The one who pushed me down the stairs. I slowly walked out with a blind stick, and when he saw me, he started mocking me as before. "Oh, you're not dead yet. I thought you died here. I even drive the hearse here for you." I couldn't be bothered to respond. "What are you here for?" Black Green rushed to me and pushed me to the ground, kicking away the blind stick. "This is my house. I can come if I want." Black Green rummaged through his pockets and circled around the hall. "I'm taking back this house. You have to move out today. You don't need to clean the house. I'll throw away everything you've touched." I looked down at the ground, expressionless. "This house was given to me by my parents. You have no right to take it back." Black Green snorted coldly, spat on the floor, and shouted, "They are my parents, not yours. You worthless person, get out of here as far as possible." After saying that, he walked away without looking back. Night fell. Mr. Assassin came back. He seemed to have a cleanliness obsession, as he started undressing as soon as he entered the house. Now I didn't have the mood to sneak a peek. Mr. Assassin changed his clothes and saw me sitting silently on the edge of the bed, so he asked, "What's wrong? You haven't said a word for a while." The words "what's wrong" instantly made my eyes turn red. From childhood to adulthood, hardly anyone cared about me. I lowered my head, my voice choked. "Mr. Assassin, how much money do you earn for killing someone? What are you trying to do?" I wiped away my tears. "Just wanted to ask how much you earn. I want to borrow some money." Mr. Assassin asked, "How much do you want to borrow?" It seems like he earns quite a bit. I want to borrow." "No, I changed my mind. Borrowing money means having to pay it back, and I currently have no ability to work. It would be a waste of someone else's property." I leaned back and sank into the blanket. "Forget it. I won't borrow. Just kill me. You can leave the body as it is. Someone will come to collect it in a few days. Also, you need to find another place to live. Forget it. That's enough. I give up." I closed my eyes, ready to embrace my own death. I've enjoyed good luck, touched a man's abs. I have no regrets. Mr. Assassin's footsteps grew closer, and it seemed like he sat down beside the bed. I could feel the depression of the mattress. Mr. Assassin spoke calmly. "Tell me what happened, and I'll let you touch my abs." "Okay." I sat up suddenly. I told him the whole story, including the issue with my eyes. After listening, Mr. Assassin responded calmly, "I understand. You see, if I stay here, they will probably kill me tomorrow, but if I go out, I'll starve to death," I said with determination. "I made up my mind, so, let me touch your abs again, and then you can kill me." He looked at me, surprised by my excitement, and somewhat incredulous. "So, all you want to do before you die is touch my abs?" "Well, actually, I also want to sleep with a man," I replied bluntly. Faced with my straightforwardness, Mr. Assassin fell silent once again. I cautiously asked, "Can you?" He decisively refused, "No." What a stingy guy. Mr. Assassin told me not to die just yet. He didn't give a reason, but instead threw me into the bed and went to take a shower himself. An assassin was advising me to stay alive. It was somewhat comical. Although I didn't know what he was planning, I quietly packed my belongings. I still had some money in my bank account, enough for me to survive for a while longer. The next morning, I was awakened by a knocking sound on the door. At first, I thought it was Black Green coming to drive me away. I grabbed my bag and held my blind cane, ready to leave. But to my surprise, the group of men in suits bowed 90 degrees as soon as they saw me. They politely invited me back inside and even cleaned the house for me. The suited thugs instantly transformed into housekeeping helpers. The man leading the group walked up to me and smiled. "Miss Dietz, our boss has purchased this house. You can live here with peace of mind," he said. I was dumbfounded. What boss? Where did this boss come from? I couldn't remember knowing such an important person. Confused, I asked, "Who is your boss?" The man in the suit replied, "I can't disclose that." Oh my God, I thought I know who is the boss. "Oh, esteemed boss, please accept my humble greetings." As soon as Mr. Assassin returned, he saw me kneeling on the ground. His tone seemed as if he had expected this. "You were kneeling to the TV," he said. "I did it on purpose." After all, the person in front of me was the boss of the assassin group. I had to cling to his thigh even if it meant my death. I raised my voice and started feeling around in the air. "Where are you?" Mr. Assassin walked over and lifted me up by the collar. "I'm right here," he said. Taking advantage of the opportunity, I grabbed his hand and tried my best to sell myself. "Boss, I'm willing to go through fire and water for you. Please accept me." He replied with a hint of amusement in his voice. "And what can you do?" That question caught me off guard. After thinking for a moment, I said, "Don't you really enjoy taking showers?" "I'm excellent at scrubbing. I can take care of your showers from now on." Mr. Assassin replied, "I don't need that. I'm willing to offer myself to you," I persisted. Mr. Assassin responded, "No need for that." So, I resorted to a bit of bargaining. "You have to choose one of the two. Which one do you want?" After a moment of silence, he said, "Fine, help me take the showers." "Great." I took a deep breath. Holding a bath towel, I walked into the bathroom. I couldn't see clearly before, but now I could finally admire his figure up close. But Mr. Assassin was wearing a towel around his lower body, leaning against the wall with one hand, facing away from me. I pouted. "Is the bathroom that cold?" He still insisted on covering himself. I resisted the urge to tear off his towel and spoke softly, "I'm starting now." Mr. Assassin calmly replied, "Okay." I tightly gripped the bath towel and vigorously rubbed him. "Is this pressure okay?" "It's fine." I continued rubbing, burying my head in the task. I have to say, as an assassin, his back was completely unblemished. Smooth as porcelain. I was very envious. You see, I used to be bullied by Black-Green, leaving many scars on my body. I couldn't even wear short sleeves or shorts in the summer. As I rubbed, I praised him. "Boss, your back is so smooth, without any scars. It's like rubbing a piece of ceramic. And you're so tall, I feel like I'm rubbing a wall. Oh my, I'm getting a bit tired. It's all because I haven't exercised for a long time. My old arms and legs can't handle it anymore." The considerate assassin said, "If you're tired, you can stop." I kept on working, panting as I continued rubbing. "No, I have to keep rubbing until you're satisfied." "Janelle." Mr. Assassin suddenly turned around. Before I could react, I pressed my hand against his chest. Both of us fell silent for a moment. My focus was entirely on his chest muscles. How should I put it? The touch was soft yet firm. And there was a small protrusion. I pinched it and asked, "Can I kiss it?" I was kicked out. Mr. Assassin said I couldn't enter the bathroom until he came out, and he even locked the door. So I sat on the edge of the bed and waited for him. After a while, Mr. Assassin finished washing up and came out. When he saw me, the first thing he said was, "Go back to your room." He wanted to chase me away again. I lay down and struck a pose, my voice filled with ambiguity. "Boss, it's a buy one get one free deal. I'm fine with it, no need to pity me." Mr. Assassin completely ignored my invitation, grabbed me off the bed with his large hand, and spoke in a harsh tone. "I want to sleep, so get out." What a load of crap. It's not even 8 o'clock yet. I refused to accept it, saying, "This is my home." Mr. Assassin was even more confident, "Now it's my home." Well, it does seem that way. I bowed 90 degrees in a sycophantic manner and said, "Good night, boss. I wish you sweet dreams." I took my blind cane and slowly walked to the bedroom door. Just before closing the door, I couldn't help but sigh. "Boss, I've realized that I'm really good at making people want to go to bed. Just like you, as soon as I speak, you're ready to sleep." He hesitated for a moment, his face turning red as he said, "Get out." After returning to the room, I suddenly heard an unfamiliar ringtone from a mobile phone. Following the ringtone of the cell phone, I rummaged through my drawers and found an old keypad phone. I pressed the answer button. A middle-aged man's voice came through. "Hello, Janelle." A familiar voice. "Ah, it's my foster father, Robin Green." I replied, "Good evening, Dad." "Good, how are you doing over there?" "Pretty good." "That's good, great." After the pleasantries, he should get to the point. The person on the other end of the phone cleared his throat a few times, hesitating in his voice. "Dad wants to come and stay with you for a few days, is that okay?" I was taken aback and asked, "Why?" "A few days ago, your mom and I got divorced." "No wonder. Dad doesn't have a place to stay now, and I don't have much money. So I want to come and stay with you for a while." Instead of looking for his two sons, Robin Green came to find me. I'm sorry, Dad. I said calmly, this house already has a new owner, you can't come over. As soon as Robin Green heard this, he became anxious and shouted, a new owner? How is that possible? Are you lying to me? I'm not lying to you, you can ask Black Green. He wanted to reclaim this house before. Janelle, Dad really. Suddenly, there was no sound. I looked at the phone and realized that it had run out of battery and shut down. I don't know where the charger is. Oh well, I'll look for it tomorrow. I threw the phone back into the box. 15 years ago, through the introduction of relatives, I came to the Green family with Robin Green. On the first day of entering the Green family, Black Green dragged me into the bathroom and beat me up. I was covered in injuries and told my foster mother about it, but she casually made excuses, saying that Black Green was just playing with me. Only Robin Green would protect me to some extent. At school, I was isolated by my classmates, and the teachers ignored me. As the adults became more indifferent towards me, Black Green became more and more violent towards me. He took advantage of my inattentiveness and pushed me down the stairs. When I woke up, everything was blurry, and I could no longer see this world. When my foster mother found out that I was blind, she started shifting the blame and abandoned me. Before leaving, Robin Green gave me a keypad phone and said he would call me often. But so far, I've only received that one phone call. Jane, are you in there? Open the door, I'm your dad, hurry up. The annoying knocking, accompanied by the shouting, pulled me out of my sleep. I opened my eyes. It was just dawn outside the window. What the hell? Ever since Black Green came, I haven't been able to sleep peacefully. Judging from the voice, it should be Robin Green. I put on my coat and groped my way out the door. As soon as Robin Green saw me, he grabbed my hand and tears welled up in his eyes. Jean, what's going on? Who bought this house? And why did you hang up the phone last night? Your phone couldn't be reached afterwards. I pulled my hand back. I don't know who the owner of the house is. Last night, my phone ran out of battery and shut down, so it couldn't be reached. Robin Green pulled me into his arms, his hands unconsciously caressing my back. Jane, you have no idea how miserable I've been lately. Your mom didn't give me any living expenses and kicked me out, and she won't let me contact your two brothers. Robin Green cried on my shoulder, tears and snot streaming down his face. I struggled, but couldn't break free. Anyway, he's here for money. I sighed, there's still some money in my card, Dad, you can take it for now. As soon as he heard the word money, Robin Green immediately let go of me. How much is in there? It shouldn't be much. I handed him the bank card from my pocket. Go to the bank and check. The password is the last 6 digits. All right. Robin Green put the card in his pocket and reluctantly looked at the house behind me. I stood there, staring blankly at the ground. Dad, please find a job as soon as possible. This money definitely won't last a lifetime. And please don't come here anymore in the future. Robin Green withdrew his gaze and touched my face. Charge your phone, Dad will contact you anytime. I lowered my head and didn't answer. After Robin Green left, I went back to my room and immediately took out my phone, picked up a hammer, and smashed it. Damn it. Who wants to be his lifelong ATM? The phone on the ground was already a mess, but I kept swinging the hammer and smashing it. Suddenly, Mr. Assassin appeared at my door. What are you doing? He didn't even go out. I put down the heavy hammer and scratched my head awkwardly. My foster father will call and ask for money, so I destroyed the communication tool first. Don't worry, I will solve this matter as soon as possible and won't cause you any trouble. Mr. Assassin said, what do you need? I can help you. I quickly waved my hand and said, no need, it's okay. You have already helped me a lot. He leaned against the doorframe and stared at me for a while. Up to you. Because he couldn't reach me, Robin Green wandered outside the house for several days in a row. I hid in the room, neither opening the door nor responding. Each time, he could only leave in frustration. After a few more days, Robin Green never came to find me again, and I think I have completely cut ties with the Green family. I finally freed myself from this bondage. It feels so refreshing. But before I could be happy for long, Mr. Assassin was about to leave. I guess he must be relocating. Mr. Assassin said I could continue living here, but I insisted on following the boss's every move. After moving to the new house, I fall down 8 times a day. Mr. Assassin arranged a nanny for me, who would hold my hand and walk with me every day to familiarize myself with the environment. I get along well with the nanny. I also learned Mr. Assassin's surname from her, Howard. When she wanted to tell me more, I quickly shook my head and refused to listen. The more you know, the quicker you die. I understand this rule. I'm now living my life in the assassin organization. That evening, I hummed a song and quickly massaged the back of Mr. Assassin. "Boss, is it comfortable?" He nodded with his back to me, I suddenly had a whimsical idea and said, "Can I massage the backs of the other guys in the group?" Mr. Assassin's body stiffened, and he asked in return, "Am I not satisfying you?" "No," I laughed, "I just want to show off my massage skills. After massaging for so many days, I feel like my technique has improved a lot. I even have muscles on my arms," I said. Upon hearing this, Mr. Assassin turned around and pinched my arm. "You still need more practice, you're not there yet," he said. "Well then," I replied casually. After all, it was just a passing comment. I tidied my hair and waited for Mr. Assassin to turn around. But he didn't move for a long time. The scorching gaze from above felt like it could burn a hole through me. I didn't dare to lift my head or move. Have you turned around?" I asked. "No," he replied. I was a bit confused. "Do you want me to massage your front?" "I can lift it up for you to massage," I said shyly. He gritted his teeth. "You, go out. He always sends me away halfway through the massage." I pouted. "I don't want to." "Why do you always send me away when we're halfway through the massage?" "I admit that it's wrong for me to bother you, but think about it. With your good figure, don't you have any faults?" Mr. Assassin calmly looked at me, tempting fate. Go on." I was angry and cowardly at the same time. I loosened my clenched fist. "Of course not, it's all my fault. You take your time to wash, I'll leave," I said as I turned around and took a step, but it seemed like I stepped on something on the ground. My body tilted, and I was about to fall. Mr. Assassin quickly reached out and pulled me into his arms, and we both fell to the ground together. In that instant, I had already planned where to bury myself. Mr. Assassin propped himself up with his arm, patted my shoulder, and said, "Get up." I rested my head on his abdominal muscles and didn't want to get up, so I pretended to be sick. I can't get up." He protected my head and asked, "Where did you hurt?" He actually believed me. I continued pretending. "I broke my leg, I can't stand up." Mr. Assassin adjusted his posture and carried me in his arms. Oh my God, it's a Princess Carrie. I would die with no regrets this time. Mr. Assassin carried me out of the bathroom, and as soon as he bent over to put me on the bed, I immediately circled my arms and legs around him, throwing him onto the bed. I heard his deep voice filled with anger. "You've got some nerve, Janelle Dietz." My voice sounded muffled. I've always been brave. Although Mr. Assassin threatened with his words, his body did not move and he didn't resist my embrace. Our clothes were already wet from the water, sticking to our bodies. I could clearly hear our heartbeats. I touched his hair, every tone tempting him. "Boss, it's not good for your body to suppress your physiological reactions all the time," I said. Mr. Assassin seemed to understand my meaning. His Adam's apple bobbed, and his voice became hoarse. "Can you?" I eagerly replied, "Yes, of course, I can." Mr. Assassin looked up and rubbed my lips with his fingertips. He asked again, "Can I kiss you?" He's really persistent. What's with the innocence now? I held his face in my hands and kissed him fiercely. "You don't have to ask, even if you forcefully kiss me, it's fine." I acted tough, but when he pinched my waist and moved forcefully, it really hurt. Mr. Assassin stroked my body with his hot palm, touched the ugly scars on my body several times, and leaned down to kiss gently. I covered my mouth and silently shed tears. Mr. Assassin kissed away my tears, and his movements gradually slowed down. At such a close distance, I could see his eyes clearly. They were a pair of very bright peach blossom eyes. "Still hurting?" he gently asked. I whimpered and said, "It's almost killing me." I woke up when it was already bright outside. The sunlight made me close my eyes again, and I snuggled into the arms of the person beside me. Mr. Assassin also woke up and kept pinching my face with his fingers. I smiled and frowned. "Stop it." He obediently stopped. When I was about to go back to sleep, he suddenly leaned close to my ear and asked, "Are you curious about my name?" I was still half asleep. Instantly, I was scared awake. Oh my god. What a life-threatening question. If I knew the assassin's name, I should go meet the king of hell right away. But I really don't want to die now. I waved my hand and shook my head frantically. No need, I'm not curious at all. Mr. Assassin looked puzzled and said, "You don't want to know?" I don't, not at all. Mr. Assassin didn't say anything more and quietly got up to put on his clothes. I realized that I had made him angry and quickly wanted to apologize. "Boss. Don't call me boss." I panicked. I wrapped the blanket around myself and got out of bed. "Then what should I call you?" "Mr. Howard?" Mr. Assassin said coldly. "I don't like it." I tried to coax and deceive. "Then, baby? Sweetheart? Darling?" He didn't say anything. In desperation, I grabbed his arm. "Don't be angry, it was my fault just now." Mr. Assassin stiffened and pinched my cheeks, forcing me to look up. "Can you see now?" "Oh no, I've been exposed." I held my breath and shook my head with lifeless eyes. "I can't see." Mr. Assassin let go of me and took a step back, silently lifting his shirt. He had abs. My eyes looked in that direction. He sneered, "So you can actually see." What a seductive move. I pinched my fingers and admitted with a lowered head, "Okay, I confess. I'm not completely blind, I can only see things vaguely." Mr. Assassin crossed his arms, probably quite angry. He asked, "How vague?" "I can't see your face clearly right now." I beckoned him with my finger. "Come closer, let me take a good look." He really came over. He held my face in his hands and kissed me. I was startled and wanted to push him away. But I didn't move. Mr. Assassin held onto my wrist and I heard his triumphant laughter. "You said it's fine even if I forcefully kiss you, right?" I covered my mouth and couldn't say anything. And he wasn't too pleased about it. "But don't think that I'll forgive you just because of this." The man coldly snorted and left the room. In order to understand the situation, I went to ask the nanny, Grace, and learned the true identity of Mr. Assassin. Actually, he was the chairman and CEO of Star Circle Group. It turns out that the place where I have been stayed is not an assassin organization, but a present-day business empire. Mr. Assassin's real name is Zach Howard. He is the actual power behind Star Circle Group. Shortly after officially taking over Star Circle Group, he was followed by enemies and got splashed with animal blood. Then he had to escape to a remote suburb and hide in my house. Fortunately, the storm has passed. The bad guys have been brought to justice. No wonder his behavior always exuded a sense of dominance. I always thought he was an assassin. But who made him threaten me with a knife as soon as we met? At night, while contemplating how to apologize to him, Grace handed me a cell phone. "Miss Dietz, Mr. Howard is calling you." To be honest, I was a little afraid to answer. I cleared my throat and tremblingly took the phone. "Hello?" The voice on the other end of the phone was steady and low. "Jane, I shouldn't have treated you that way this morning, I'm sorry." I trembled a bit. "Huh? Wasn't I the one in the wrong?" "Boss, no, darling, I should also apologize to you. I thought you were an assassin before, so I didn't dare to tell you that I can see. I shouldn't have threatened you with a knife before, I'm sorry. So, let's make up, shall we?" "Yeah." Zach Howard smiled and said, "Are you free now? Do you want to go out for a meal?" When he said that, I realized that I hadn't been in touch with the outside world for a long time. So I replied, "Sure." I asked Grace to help me pick out a dress for going out, and Zach Howard sent a car to pick me up. When we arrived at the restaurant, I walked arm in arm with Zach Howard and looked around. This place is really luxurious. Although I could only vaguely see the light emitted by the light bulbs. Faced with the steak served, I let go of my reservations and enjoyed it to the fullest. When I pretended to be blind before, I had to be cautious even when eating noodles. When we finished eating, Zach Howard took a sip of wine and said seriously, "Jane, if you only see me as a friend with benefits, I will also take responsibility for my actions last night." Poof! I almost choked on my saliva. How could I see the CEO as a friend with benefits? I wiped my mouth and said, "Boss, darling. Even though I often say some aggressive words and don't seem like a decent person, I don't think that way. I actually quite like you." Zach Howard was half skeptical. "Do you like my abs or do you like me as a person?" What kind of question is that? He thinks too shallowly of me. I said firmly, "Of course I like you as a person." Well, then actually I like both, and I want both. He had a look on his face that said, I knew it. Zach Howard and I are officially together. But I never expected that. Before I could even enjoy a life of luxury, I had to accompany Zach Howard to various banquets. Every time we entered the banquet hall, I felt everyone's gaze on us. But overall, the atmosphere was still pleasant. During a small-scale banquet, Zach Howard was surrounded by a group of businessmen. I stood by the dining table, eating and quietly listening. Suddenly, someone called me from the side. Janelle Dietz. I instinctively turned around. A tall man walked up to me and said, Do you remember me? I could never forget that voice. David Green. Black Green's brother, Robin Green's eldest son. I lowered my head and nodded. David. I didn't expect to meet you here. He said, Let's go somewhere else to talk. David Green took my hand and led me to a secluded corner, asking, I heard that you're living with Mr. Howard now? I silently thought to myself, what's it to you? Looking at him, I nodded and replied coldly, yes. That's good, then you won't have to worry in your next life. I kept my head down and remained silent. David Green smiled and took a sip of his drink. I know you don't like me, but I still want to explain something to you. The reason why Black Green treated you that way was because our father Robin Green liked you. You almost became our stepmother. I was shocked. It felt like all the blood in my body was flowing backward. David Green completely disregarded my feelings and continued speaking. Robin Green used to sneak into your room at night, didn't you notice? I have a video recorded by Robin Green, but unfortunately, you can't see it. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, Should I send it to Mr. Howard for him to see? The surrounding brightness made me hold my breath. If it were in the dark, I would probably be trembling all over. I asked him, What do you want? David Green handed me a card. I hope you can stay in touch with us, your family members. Darling, I've been threatened. When I returned home in the evening, I told Zach Howard about this. After listening, Zach suppressed his anger and calmly said, Don't be afraid, I'll handle this. I'm not scared, I'm actually quite excited. I laughed and said, It turns out the pervert is right beside me. His comforting hand paused in midair. I handed him my phone and the card, helped me make the call and record it at the same time. I want to hear what this scumbag wants to do. Beep beep. The call went through. I heard the voice of David Green on the other end. Hello, who is this? Wow, he's quite polite. In an instant, I got into character and started crying, Brother David Green. David Green's voice sounded triumphant. Jane, don't cry. As long as you listen to me obediently, I won't do anything to you. I sniffed. I'll do whatever you want, just please don't tell Mr. Howard about this. He won't want me anymore if he know about it. Meanwhile, Zach Howard was watching me, completely convinced by my acting skills, with an incredulous look on his face. I gave him a seductive wink. Okay, David Green was satisfied with my answer. First, you should go persuade Zach Howard to cooperate with our company. Then gather $30 million for me. And also a portion of the company's shares. David Green listed many conditions, each one more outrageous than the last. In his eyes, it seemed like I was a super agent capable of anything. With my repeated promises, David Green hung up the phone. Zach Howard had been listening the whole time, and he skillfully found a lawyer and prepared a bank book for me. A few days later, with a hidden recorder on me, I arrived at the meeting place for the transaction with David Green. Throughout the process, I tried to compromise and begged David Green to give me the video. But just like a villain in a TV drama, he gave me one copy and then revealed another. David Green said he would use this to threaten me for the rest of my life. He even played the video for me to hear. I couldn't see the visuals clearly, but I could hear my own dreamy voice and the heavy breathing of Robin Green. It made me want to vomit. In the end, David Green and Robin Green were both arrested. My foster mother brought Black Green to apologize to me, and they both knelt down. At that moment, I rolled my eyes. Black Green cried and apologized, saying he wouldn't fight back even if I hit him. He also said that I could keep hitting him until I felt satisfied. But I only wanted to send him to prison, I didn't want to dirty my own hands. That's how it ended. Before long, the Green Group was completely finished. Black Green was also sent to prison for intentional harm. After the world was at peace, I seriously pondered the current status of my relationship with Zach Howard. Now, I could openly harass Zach Howard, and he had grown accustomed to some of my behavior. Whenever I got close to him, he puckered his lips, waiting for me to kiss him. It's not worth much. It was more enjoyable when you pretended to be reserved before. I crossed my arms and strolled into the bathroom. Zach was taking a shower, and he looked back at me and smiled. Want to shower together? I let out a deep sigh and patted his muscular chest. I still like the way you used to be, so obedient and innocent. But you won't let me touch you. Zach paused his movement of kissing me and lowered his head. What about now? Now? I wrinkled my nose in disdain. Now you can't wait to stick to me. He snorted coldly. Is that so? Then get out now. Yes, that's the feeling. I won't. I put on a stern face. What can you do to me? Zach grabbed a towel, wiped himself off, then bent down and carried me over his shoulder. He tossed me in bed around all night. When I woke up in the morning, I was covered in kiss marks and couldn't move at all. Although it was my own doing, my stubbornness led me to decide to tease him a little. I looked at Zach Howard and said, I'm sorry. Zach looked puzzled. Sorry for what? It's nothing. Zach Howard wanted to cure my eyes. He took me to various hospitals for examinations, but the doctors shook their heads, indicating their helplessness. It's okay, as long as I can see you clearly, I comforted him. You are my world. This is a cheesy pickup line I learned online. But it's really awkward to say it out loud. I even feel a bit embarrassed myself. Zach held my hand and placed a cold object in my palm. He kissed my face and said, Janelle Dietz, will you marry me? What a sudden proposal. I felt my heart racing. But on the surface, I still had to play it cool. I smirked and asked, what's in it for me? You can touch my abs anytime, he replied. That's not enough. I tilted my head and put the ring on my ring finger. And your whole body, including. Zach covered my mouth with his hand. All right, it's all yours. No need to say it out loud. I loved hearing that. Immediately, a wave of desire surged through me. I lay in Zach's embrace, blinked my eyes, and asked, Are you going to work today? Zach unbuttoned his shirt in response to my words. No. In that case, let's take off your pants too. I pushed him down and passionately kissed him on the mouth. In the midst of our heavy breathing, I looked at the scenery outside the window. The sun was shining brightly, without a cloud in the sky. Perhaps my future life would be just like this.